ladies and gentlemen, Idi Amin, one of 2Pac's Outlawz, interviewed Jeff Pearlman, and where Jeff Pearlman tries to make Tupac a murderer by placing a gun in his hand that actually wasn't there. How do we know that? Because Jeff Pearlman was being interviewed by somebody who was right next to Tupac during the incident.
Not true. I was there.
Were you there right next to him?
I was there, right next to him.
Also, Idi Amin approaches Jeff Pearlman about saying that Tupac didn't know how to shoot a gun. Jeff Pearlman knew the video existed of Tupac at the gun range, but chose to ignore it to push his own narrative, and then apologizes and cops a plea. Ladies and gentlemen, like I told you, it's a book of fiction and fairy tales. Let's get into some of this straight game.
Life is like some cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy Delray, Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor, click on the thumbs up button. Also subscribe to the channel. And like I always say, if you want to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game, please do me a favor and click on what appears to be that little bell notification right below this video. I'm gonna get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, my last couple of videos, I've been giving you the straight game about Jeff Pearlman, who tried to contact me and interview me. I told him no. He just admitted that he tried to contact and interview E.D.I from the Outlawz. E.D.I did not interview with him either. Billy Garland didn't interview with him either. So there are people who had interactions and things like that with Tupac from that perspective. I would say E.D.I more so than anybody else. Also Billy Garland and a few other people. But what's interesting about this interview that E.D.I did with Jeff Pearlman is Jeff Pearlman attempts to place a gun in Tupac's hand, ladies and gentlemen. During the Marin City shooting, where a young man was murdered, and Tupac did not have a gun in his hands, but Jeff Pearlman, not knowing that E.D.I was next to Tupac during this incident, E.D.I said, I was right next to him. Jeff Pearlman proceeds to tell a story about how Tupac was allegedly shaking with the gun by proving that Tupac didn't know how to handle a gun, ladies and gentlemen. And you're going to see Jeff Pearlman get stopped in his a foretold fantasy of what he said he thought happened in regards to some police report and what he talked about from other people, ladies and gentlemen. Listen.
I talked with Kendrick Wells. Did you know Kendrick Wells? Kendrick Wells, who has since passed, who was close to Tupac. And he was telling stories about how Tupac was just reckless with a gun. You know, he was kind of erratic and all this stuff. There was the Marin City shooting, where Tupac, I interviewed a ton of people from the Marin City shooting, where Tupac is holding a gun and he's shaking, his hand is shaking when he's holding the gun.
Not true. I was there.
Were you there right next to him?
I was there, right next to him.
At the Marin City shooting,
Tupac never
with
touched
Dimitri
the
Triplin.
Absolutely, never touched the gun that day. A gun never touched his hands. Absolutely
I have to.
And there was another thing that was inaccurate, since we're talking about Marin, that we showed up with bodyguards. We absolutely didn't.
Okay, wait, time out.
Boom. You heard it right then and there, right? E.D.I stopped him and said Tupac never had a gun that day. Jeff Pearlman goes on to try to explain how the police report and the people that he talked to and, you know, blase blah and all of this, that, and the other. But E.D.I goes into saying what? That everybody, they were arrested and everybody got gunshot residue tests.
Was then
we were arrested and they checked everybody's hands for gunshot residue.
Yeah, no, I know.
You know what I mean?
I know. They had a suspect.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And none of those tests came back positive for any kind of gun residue, including Tupac Shakur, ladies and gentlemen. So how is it that some 30-odd years later, some guy, Jeff Pearlman, comes out of the woodworks trying to place guns place a gun in Tupac's hand, basically trying to imply that Tupac was a murderer of this young man who got killed that day, when it was simply not true. And he didn't know he was talking to a person who was right there next to him. That's the funny part. He got stopped in his tracks. He was like, oh. And then Jeff Pearlman goes on to talk about, well, I'm not trying to call you a liar. I'm not trying to call you a liar. The audacity of him to say anything like that. Once again, you were talking to somebody who was right there. If you had done your research, right, like you're really supposed to do your research, like he's claiming and telling everybody he's done his research, he would have known that. It's plain and simple, ladies and gentlemen. It's plain and simple. And then E.D. goes into the fact and talks about him saying that Tupac couldn't shoot a gun. Listen.
I wanted to touch on the, he couldn't shoot it because,
Oh, yeah, right.
There's footage of Pac.
I've seen it at the shooting range.
In the shooting
but I did
range,
also talk to Watani.
Mm-hmm.
You know Watani.
Yeah, of course.
And I think, again, me saying that, honest to God, it's like when you talk about sports, I'm actually being totally blunt here. I think being a white sports writer, working on a Tupac book, comes with a lot of sensitivities that I crossed over at that moment, where I was wasn't thinking. It's about writing about an icon, but not just an icon who's the son of a Black Panther, who means something to tons and tons of people, in particular Black men and women who are not just inspired by his music, but inspired by his life. And me being a sloppy, almost like a sports talk guy, blah, 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 he couldn't shoot. It just came off stupid and embarrassing.
Wow. Amazing, ladies and gentlemen. This is simply amazing. This is simply amazing that this guy, Jeff Pearlman, like I said, could come out of the woodworks, talk about some stuff he got from Tupac's high school and all of these other things. But you've seen when held to the fire, right? It's a nothing burger. It's a book of fiction and fairy tales. It's creative journalism, right? Without true context. So it's not based in fact. It's based in what Jeff Pearlman and the people who are backing him and pushing this book. Notice he's been on every damn podcast in the world, right? People, the young lady that just came out, who was at Stacey Robinson, just came out with an autobiography, right? From the estate. It didn't get this much publicity. So think about who's behind Jeff Pearlman pushing this book of lies and fiction. And like I said, he just got held to account. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you something, and you have to understand this and how this works when you want to assassinate somebody's character, right? Diddy went through what he went through, everything we know about the Cassie situation. We've seen the Intercontinental video. But ladies and gentlemen, if you remember this book right here, it says Kim's Lost Words, right? I interviewed the guy, Chris Todd, who was out here pushing this book of lies, right? I interviewed him on the Art of Dialogue. You can go and check it out. And so in this book, he was talking about Diddy had inappropriate relationships with Will Smith, Jay-Z, Justin Bieber, Bow Wow. All of these people were named in that book. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, none of it was true. None of it was true. And this book, according to, at the time, this book was one of the number one selling books on Amazon. We did the interview on the Art of Dialogue. I conducted the interview with Chris Todd, right? Who also happened to be a Caucasian guy, right? And he sat there and he told me that he had hard drives with Diddy in relationship with inappropriate children. And if he showed those hard drives, the whole music industry would have shut down, ladies and gentlemen. This is what he told me on the Art of Dialogue. You don't believe me? So you didn't. These are other things that you didn't include in.
Correct.
And why did you keep that out?
Correct, because I can't reveal everything at once. It's too shocking. If I was to release those tapes, the world would shut down. Okay? If I showed one of these tapes, I'm telling you right now, the whole music industry and Hollywood, it would just grind down like this. They're all going to start pointing at each other like this, and it's going to be bad.
Go check it out. The Chris Todd interview. And so when we found out that Courtney Burgess was behind the book, right? The government, when Diddy trial was going on, the grand jury basically subpoenaed him. And guess what they found, ladies and gentlemen? Guess what he produced? Nothing. Not one hard drive, nothing. Zero, zip. And it was all in relation to this book, ladies and gentlemen. All of it was lies. And so I tell you the same thing. Now we're dealing with Jeff Pearlman in relation to 2Pac Shakur. E.D. basically proving that Jeff Pearlman is out here pushing fictional fairy tale stories and a narrative that he wants to try to control in relation to 2Pac's legacy. And it's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen. Like I said, you see the video that I did last night. This is beyond irresponsible, ladies and gentlemen. This is beyond irresponsible. Jeff Pearlman, he goes on to say, you know, I'm just a white guy. I'm a white guy. I'm a white sports writer, you know. And you heard him. You heard him. Right? So now we're dealing with his fragility. No, we're not. Not when you say that you're trying to imply that 2Pac Shakur is a murderer, something he was never proven of. You're trying to put a gun in his hand. You're trying to say, and when he did, listen, I want y'all to understand this. Jeff Pearlman is trying to put a gun in 2Pac's hand in Marin City and place him responsible for a murder that 2Pac didn't commit. And Idi Amin corrected him about that because he was right there, right? So he's trying to place a gun in his hand, shaking. And then, hold on, when 2Pac, listen to me, when 2Pac is in the gun range with multiple guns, a rifle, a submachine gun, and all of those things, right? When he's in there in a shooting range, exercising his rights to bear arms in a safe and productive manner, right? Jeff Pearlman knew about the video, but now would say, in seeing that video, oh, he's seen the video before, he would now say that 2Pac didn't know how to shoot a gun, right? You see the contrast? So at one minute, he wanted to place the gun in his hand when it involves a murder. But in another on another attempt, he basically saying, oh, that 2Pac didn't know how to shoot a gun, when there's clear evidence that he was wrong. You just seen it. So on one hand, he wants them, to have the gun, but then the other hand, he wants them not to be able to know how to handle it, when 2Pac is exemplifying the fact that he could handle it in a safe environment at the gun range. Who is Jeff Pearlman? What is his real true aim? It's to assassinate the legacy of 2Pac Shakur, a revolutionary, a son of a Black Panther, and Billy Garland and Afeni Shakur. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Pearlman has come out of nowhere and attempting to rewrite history in which he knows nothing about. You've seen him say, I'm a white sports writer. So he backpedaled. He did a little Michael Jackson backslide because now he's being confronted by the people who were around. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your patience. More importantly, go over there and watch Idi Amin TV. Go check out the entire interview. More importantly, and he just dropped another part of that interview, ladies and gentlemen, and where Jeff Pearlman now tries to, straddle the fence but not hit the divider. Now 2Pac should be studied. No, we already know that 2Pac has already been studied in college universities. Jeff Pearlman is not saying anything new. He's basically regurgitating information that is already out there, ladies and gentlemen. So now he's saying it. I believe that Tupac should be a study, taught history classes. Yeah, it's already being done, Jeff Pearlman. You're not saying anything new. And you already know it's being done because you said you've done your research, and in doing research, you know that. You see how he's trying to do it? 1 minute he's saying something ultra negative, then he's now trying to say something positive.
I did my reporting, and also in my defense, you didn't talk to me, and I did try reaching out to you. I'm not upset about that. Yeah. Everyone has a right, but I'm just saying, like,
hoping that the ultra negative sticks. None of it's gonna stick. It's already out there, minus the lies that are being told in this book, ladies and gentlemen. Your boy Delray, straight gang.
Life is like those cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.